All right, perfect. What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 6 of the Inside D3 show. I'm your host, Morgan Cheatham. Thank you guys again for joining us today. Be sure to follow us on our website, InsideD3.com. Twitter and Instagram is at D3Inside. Our Facebook is Inside D3. All of our podcasts are on iTunes, Spotify, and Anchor. Just search the Inside D3 show. And our YouTube is Inside D3 Athletics. So I want to introduce our guest for today. We are joined by the owner of d3Playbook, Steve Ulrich. How are you today, Steve?
Morgan, I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So basically, I want to talk a little bit about, your path to, where you are right now first. So just give us a little background on, your education, some of your previous work experience, and then if you have any playing experience, you can share that to us as well.
Sure. I'm a 1982 graduate of Franklin and Marshall College, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I've grown up around sports my entire life. My father was a college administrator, so I was actually an administrative brat growing up on the F&M campus. We moved to Juniata College when I was 10 for my dad's job. So I've always been around Division III sports. It was my upbringing. It was my calling. I played basketball and golf in high school. Continued playing golf in college. I joke that my claim to fame when it comes to collegiate golf is I was the number 5 man on a very good 4 man golf team that won the 1980 Middle Atlantic Conference Championship. I was there, score didn't count, but I can still call myself MAC champion. So that was my experience on the playing field. I worked in the PR office at Franklin and Marshall during my undergrad years because I was really interested. I've always been a sportsman, always been crazy about it, and I loved knowing everything that was going on. I love stats. I just really get into that. So I ran into a contact at Franklin Marshall who was able to set me up with an internship in sports information at Dartmouth, where that's where I went after graduation. So I worked in sports information as an intern at Dartmouth, the sports information director at McDaniel College, assistant SID at Cornell. I was the director of sports information at Yale from 89 to 92 before the opportunity to become the executive director with the Centennial Conference opened, where I was for the past 26 years.
Okay, so what would you say was your favorite one of those, colleges that you spent time at?
I always have a fondness for the 10 years in the Ivy League was wonderful. And I had never spent a lot of time in New Hampshire. Being at Dartmouth was wonderful. Met my wife when we both worked together at Cornell. The experience at Yale was fascinating. It was memorable. But one of the things I noticed during the Division I stops was that sometimes the coaches' egos really, even at that level, sometimes got in the way of some of the things we were hoping to accomplish. It made it a real challenge. So leaving Division I to come back to Division III was something I always had in mind. Now that said, I had applied for a job at Penn State, which is just half hour from where I grew up, and maybe if Penn State had hired me, we'd be off on a completely different professional track. But I think it worked out very well and had the opportunity to build something from scratch with the Centennial. It was brand new conference, 11 schools coming together for the first time to help create the rules, the regulations, do schedules, awards, championships, public relations, the video streaming, to work with Division III commissioners, to run the whole gamut. Was something that was very special. I think we did great things, and I'll always be very proud to work with the Centennial.
Absolutely. So that kind of transitions me into my next question about the Centennial Conference specifically. What was it like leading that charge? How was that experience?
It's funny, Morgan. One of the things I always tell people is that when you run an athletic conference, it is truly like herding cats. You have 11 different schools that all have their mission, their values, and have an idea of the direction they want to take their athletic program. What our job in a conference office was to try to find a consensus, a proper direction for a majority of the schools to say this will not only benefit you as an individual institution, but it will benefit the whole. And if we all go in this direction, we all win. So being a conference commissioner is trying to find a way to make sure that all the schools can find a way to win. That said, a lot of times the best you can do in a conference office is tie, just because sometimes it comes down to 6-5 vote, six in favor, five against. Our policies were always a two-thirds majority. So just to try to get everybody pulling in the same direction was always it was a daily challenge, a monthly challenge, certainly a yearly challenge when you have turnover with head coaches, when you have turnovers with athletic directors, when you have turnovers with presidents. It's a constant educational process. Um, it was always great. We always had a 5-team playoff structure, so we would have the 4 and 5 seeds playing a first round game to move on to a final four. Well, the veteran coaches were always kind of like, okay, well, we've signed on to it. We understand the benefits of it. We like it. We'd get a new coach in. The first question out of their mouth at every coaches meeting was, I'd like to expand the playoff field. And you can see the older coaches would roll their eyes and like, oh no, not this again. So it's always a fine dance. Just trying to get the presidents, the athletic directors on board, and then realizing that we're all doing this on behalf of the students. And that was one of the things I felt very good about our experience was that our coaches, our athletic administrators, and our coaches were treated as educators by conference administrators. And when you take that role as an educator, it helps the connection with the students, I think, just be that much stronger.
For sure. So I want to talk a little bit about D3 Playbook real quick. So tell me, what was the story behind you starting this up, and how important is it for you to highlight D3 sports?
It's funny. We go back to probably the late 90s. When email was just becoming all the rage on a college campus, we were doing daily updates for our conference members. We would send out scores, standings, calendar events, just little tidbits of news, and we thought that was a great way to deliver it on email. Well, then websites became all the rage, and people said to me, Steve, we don't need a daily email because we can just look it up on our website. So it kind of disappeared for about 15 years. Then all of a sudden, email newsletters have started to come back in fashion. Um, and I really admired what the folks at Axios do in the way they put their newsletter together. And I thought, you know why don't we go back to a daily communique for the conference members, following the same similar format that we did back in the day? Well, after leaving the Centennial, I thought, you know what? I really like doing it. I like sharing that kind of information. I think there's a market for it. And I just started back in, I guess it was August is when we started it, and just started to build with commissioners, asking them to share with their delegation, and right now we're pushing probably 1,000 subscribers. It's been great to be able to inform the decision makers in Division III. That was always the goal. It was, okay, I know you don't have time to go to the NCAA website every day and see what management council recap is, or what the playing rules oversight panel has passed and is going to be adopted for women's volleyball next fall. Maybe you're not reading inside highered.com and missing some of the stories when it comes to finances, tuition, things that are going on certainly with the pandemic. So to be able to be an aggregator in that respect, I've really enjoyed doing. And the response we've been getting to D3 Playbook has been really off the charts. It's very flattering that some of my old colleagues will write to me and say, it's one of the first things we read every day. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for giving us some serious stuff, but also keeping it light, letting us know transactions, and it's made me feel very good that I'm providing a service for small college athletics.
Absolutely. So that transitions me into my next question, which is, first off, what's the writing process like for that? And then also, would you ever see an Inside D3 collab in your future as well?
Oh, you're a good businessman. I like that.
I try.
I do. I think there is a collaboration for those of us that truly care about Division Three. Certainly, to be able to get this word out to provide a service. You can go on any website in the country and read about the Power Five conferences. You can even scrape a little deeper and find mid-major sites and the like. But there's no place you can really go outside of the good work that Pat Coleman and Gordon Mann and Keith McMillan and Dave McHugh have done with the D3 sports family. Ironically enough, one of the first things that my wife and I did back in the late 90s, we did a website called College Lacrosse USA. We also did D3 football and D3 basketball online, which when our son was born, we're kind of like, we can't do all of this anymore. So we kind of passed on football. We kind of passed and kind of turned football. Pat was already doing D3 football, but it's like, here, you want to do hoops? Go ahead and do it. So we've had a strong relationship with those gentlemen for a long time. I'm an admirer of the work they do. I'm an admirer of the work that you're doing right now. I think it's important for us to get the word out about what Division Three has to offer. It's not just roll the ball out and have some fun. The athletes, it's funny. I don't like using the phrase student athlete. We're the young people that I worked with in the Centennial and Division Three. You're students who choose to be involved in athletics, and there's more to it. Yes, you're devoting the same amount of time and energy and devotion that any other scholarship athlete, scholarship collegiate athlete is in the country. Just you may not have the same skill level that they have, or the opportunity came along where they received a scholarship and Division Three students didn't. That doesn't mean you're any less serious. It doesn't mean the games are any less competitive. The quality of play is good, and I think it's important for those of us that are now out of it to remind folks of that. I grew up watching Division Three sports. I grew up watching Franklin and Marshall, watched Juniata sports. It was an opportunity for me to, some of those older, you're what, 10, 11, 12 years old. You're really looking up to the 20-year-olds that are playing sports on a college campus, whether they realize it or not. And they are role models. And the more we can do to educate college students and get them to understand that it's an important part of your collegiate experience. It's not the only part of your collegiate experience. So do more in college. Do as much as is offered to you. And understand that also there are little ones looking up to you. And the future of Division Three is going to be those young kids that are looking up to the scholar athletes of today. Those are the ones we need to continue to have think of Division Three as a viable option.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think you transitioned us so well into some of our questions today because my next question is asking, what makes Division Three so unique in your opinion?
You don't want to come off saying that Division One and Two is less than Division Three. You don't want to cheapen it by saying Division Three is truly the student athlete and all that kind of stuff. But I do believe when you're being paid to go to school, and certainly with the cost of tuition, room, and board today, anything that can be done to help reduce the cost of a college education is certainly enviable, and I would never take away that opportunity from someone. But when you go to Division Three, you're not on the clock. Yes, you're expected to go to practice. Yes, you're expected to do your strength and conditioning. Yes, you're supposed to make sure you go to the voluntary, non-traditional season workouts. But when you're being paid to do it, that's an expectation. There's no such thing as voluntary anymore. It's mandatory all the time. So if you want to work for the student newspaper, you want to work for college communications office, you want to be involved with theater, dance, whatever you want to do in the off season, Division Three gives you that opportunity to get the full collegiate experience. like I said, it takes a special student at a scholarship level to be able to get, I think, the richness of the collegiate experience that Division III kids can. Now, certainly, if you play soccer in the fall, yeah, you're going to have practice in the spring. You can take the spring and goof off if that's what you choose. But it's your opportunity to, you could go abroad, you could get an internship, you could take in much more of what college has to offer. Heck, you could hang out in the quad all semester for all I care. But that's an option to you at Division III, and I really think that is such a vital component to the whole collegiate experience. And really, that's for me. That's why D3.
Yeah, for sure. I think it gives us such an opportunity to just be able to not be labeled as just athletes. You were saying how it just takes up a lot of, student athletes' times in other divisions, but being able to have that opportunity to have some freedom to, pursue other things, because we all know that athletics isn't forever. So I think it's great for us to have that opportunity, and I think it's helped a lot of us grow into, a lot of great individuals even after sports. So
And the folks that I've worked with the student athlete advisory committees, they're wonderful representatives for their institutions. They're wonderful representatives for the conference. They're wonderful representatives for Division III, and it was very rewarding to have these people come to. We would have representatives from the SAC that would come to the NCAA convention, which was a wonderful thing, and to see their eyes open up to how the process works, and also hear them say, you know what, maybe a career in athletic administration is something that I would like to pursue. We would always have a coaching symposium for undergraduate women in the Centennial, the Snell Schillingford Symposium, to open up doors to show young women the opportunities that they have in athletics, whether it be in coaching, whether it be in administration, to give back. I think all of that is important in everything we do. So, not only to give you the opportunity on the playing field, give you the opportunity off the playing field, and then open doors for possible career opportunities. Once again, that's my Division III experience, and that's my Division III message.
absolutely. So my last question before we get out of here, why D3 is always, the slogan and kind of the main underlying question that we always ask. So what was your reasoning behind choosing D3 in particular?
For me, picking Division III, like I said, it was the way I was brought up. My father was a Division III guy. He worked at a pair of Division III schools. I was an administrative brat. I thought this was the way it was supposed to be. Um, I grew up in Huntington, Pennsylvania, a town of 8,000. The nearest town next to me was the biggest town next to us was State College, where Penn State is. That was 30 miles away. That had 30,000 students whatsoever. When I applied to the colleges, it was all small liberal arts colleges. I just thought that was the way it was supposed to be, and I've never looked back. It was a wonderful experience. I encourage my kids to do the same. I encourage anyone that talks to me that Division III is a wonderful opportunity. That the experience you're going to get on campus, the opportunities that you're going to have from your coaches, your professors, your administrators, the competition is top notch. And I think that's one thing that's often goes unnoticed by national media. The quality of play is really, really good, and the competitive nature of the students involved is incredible. Division III for me has been my life, and I'm happy to be able to give something back through D3 Playbook.
No doubt. Well, Steve, thank you again for joining us today. We definitely appreciate you taking some time to talk with us, and we hope you stay safe during these times as well.
Morgan, thank you very much. I think you're doing a great job with the podcast. I appreciate all your good work, and we'll talk about that possible collaboration. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely, no problem. So that does it for another episode of Inside D3. Once again, I am Morgan Cheatham, and we are signing off. All right.